Hi, and welcome to the Higher Education Access Corner. I'm your host, Tiffanie DeVan, and I'm excited today to have with me one of our newest highest education access partners. Her name is Evelyn Disla-Hernandez, and she is full of wealth, a wealth full of knowledge and experience, and I am happy to have her today. We're going to be talking about preparing for high school graduation or life beyond high school, and she's going to share some tips, recommendations for those students to kind of help them finish strong. So, Evelyn, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, to get started, because a lot of our viewers may not know quite who you are, and since you just joined us, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, or anything that you want to share?
I've been in higher education all my career. So I was actually in the private college setting for the last 28 years. I actually started in Buffalo, New York at a community college. From there, I went to New York City and worked at a private 4 year. And then my last 19 years have been in Pennsylvania at DeSales University. And since April, I joined FIA as an access partner. I feel this move it brings me full circle as to why I started in higher education, because when I first got seduced into higher ed, and nobody ever picks financial aid to be their career, but you end up in it, was to make college affordable and accessible. So I think with this new role and interacting more with students, um, and seeing more of a population is bringing me full circle as to why I started, and rekindling that passion to make college more accessible. I
Perfect.
For this topic, I have I'm the mother of three, so they're my pride and joy and my legacy to the world, I guess. And my youngest is going to start. It's actually a senior in high school this year, so completely different. We're having all three kids, so hopefully, I have some little tips that will help anybody in the journey with me.
I think you will, because again, you have the professional experience. Now you have that personal experience to add along. So I'm certain that our listeners are going to get something out of this. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for being willing to share a little bit of the private side that goes along with it. And then for those of our listeners who aren't sure, Evelyn covers Michael Burke's old area. Michael retired, so we'll miss him. But you're going to be covering that territory, so they'll all get to know you and all the value that you add to our team as an access partner. So
Those are big shoes to fill, but
they are. They are. They are. They are. We're going to miss Michael.
I'll miss him.
So just to kind of jump into the topic for the preparing for high school graduation. It's that time of the year where it's a lot of seniors. They've kind of made it to the point where it's time to make some decisions. It's goal time, but there are so many things that are still on that to-do list that they need to get done. Personally, professionally, with graduation just around the corner, what do you think seniors and their families should be really prioritizing or focusing on right now while they're still in high school?
The first thing I would say for the seniors is take that moment and acknowledge that you've graduated, that you're graduating, that you've had that accomplishment. And then enjoy, right? It's their last period as a young adult with possible little responsibilities. So make sure you have that time to enjoy your friends and enjoy the activities of the rite of passage that is graduating high school. And then, but make sure you're taking care of certain things. Applying for the FAFSA so you know that you have financial aid in line. Finalizing the decision. If you haven't visited colleges, I would suggest you start visiting, because that's an important part of making sure you fit whatever institution you do pick. Because in paper, it might look great, but when you visit a campus, you might not feel at home. So I think that fit is important, because you don't want to, although you could transfer, you want to start and stay with the people that you meet, and so you don't want to lose that. And realizing that you're not alone. So you have a lot of resources available, including your high school counselors. And hopefully you've done enough work in junior year to apply for scholarships or research scholarships. Then now that you're in your senior year, you have all your recommendations, you have your essays, and you have all of that ready to apply for additional scholarships. And you know who to access to make the process easier. If you've done all those things, the college you picked, or they will notify you of what next. So I would say that enjoy the moment, and then make sure that all your dots are crossed, and that you or your dots are dotted and your T's are crossed, so that you do have everything in place that you need. For most colleges, if you did the FAFSA and you included your college of choice, May 1st is around the corner, which is National Decision Day. So
We're gonna
hopefully,
get to that. Don't go too far onto that one because we're gonna have, I
oh,
want to
that's
tell
okay.
you a lot more
So
about that
um,
part.
so do that as long as you have done that. And let's say you haven't. Don't panic, you still have time. So just make sure, start with the FAFSA, right? Because if you put yourself in the radar for any school that you're planning to go to, those schools will reach out to you and let you know what it is that you're missing, if you're missing anything.
I agree. FAFSA first. And then something else you mentioned I think is really important was visit the school. Because like you said, a lot of students make their choice based off of what they see on paper, on the internet, or from an admission counselor coming, and they haven't really gotten a full feel for the school. Um, Based on your experiences with your kids, or even going back to just you being at different schools and higher ed, what do you think are some absolute places that students need to focus on when they're visiting a school? One, for me, I always say they need to make sure that they visit the financial aid office. See what additional things that opportunities are there that they didn't necessarily pick up. Maybe a person can tell them a little something. Maybe there's a pamphlet there. Also get a feel for what the classrooms could look like if they get that opportunity to go while classes are in session. See if they can sit in on a class. Do you like a big classroom or small classroom setting? What's that professor to student ratio look like? Because it wants to feel good for you. But anything else you could think of where you're going to say these are must-haves or things that you must do if you're going to go visit a school?
I think visiting the financial aid office is extremely important, only because oftentimes when you see the sticker price for any college, you might say, oh, I can afford to go there. But most colleges that have really high tuition also have endowed money that they're able to offer you. So making sure that you look at the net price for that institution, and don't just discount any institution you might be interested in just because of the sticker price. So what I told my kids is, you go apply to as many schools as you want. Once we start getting information back of the financial your financial offers for them, then we could have that conversation. So do not discount any college based on the sticker price, because oftentimes that's not really the value. And I agree with you. I think you're going to spend the next 4 years, potentially more if you continue on your graduate studies in this institution. So seeing the classroom size, seeing the interaction that the faculty has with you. Are you better in a small setting or a big 400 student class? Student activities, right? Are you going to come here and then you have no social life? Representation, right? And when I mean representation, I don't mean everybody looks like you, but you feel you're welcome, even if everybody else doesn't. Like my last 19 years, I was at an institution that was predominantly white. So making sure the students feel welcome is the school responsibility. So once you visit a campus, you'll be able to ascertain whether how's the food, how close to a barber I am. Like those little things that you might not be thinking originally, but that are important. Am I able to get plátanos, right? I'm Caribbean, so that's important to me. So if it wasn't in a setting, then if I cannot get it, how easily is for my parents to send it to me? So all of that will determine whether you thrive at the institution you pick or not. And then talk to the faculty, see what it's about, talk to the career services, talk to see what alumni came from there, because that will give you a sense of um, where you're going to be placed once you finish, right? Because it's too soon to think of that, but you need to start setting the stepping stones to where you want to be.
And I also think one of the things that you said, it really does make a difference, because if you don't really find that good pick for a school where it feels comfortable and it feels like, I feel comfortable, I feel safe, I feel seen, and I feel valued. I think a lot of times what ends up happening is that's where you lose the students. They drop out. I'm not going back. I don't like it. Doesn't feel good. They transfer out, or they just don't have an overall good, well-rounded experience. And I think for those student who is going to transfer out, then they have to be mindful, because again, we think financial aid in numbers. Okay, how much is that going to set you back? Are you going to get all of your credits to transfer? Did you lose some things? Has your 4-year program now turned into a 5-year program simply because you had to transfer, or because you dropped out, now you're going to go back? How does that affect you academically as well? So you want students to kind of do all their research, I think, up front, so that they can minimize the impact that transferring or dropping out or something like that could possibly have on the back end with everything. I think another thing is for students, sometimes I talk to students and they have certain things going on mentally, emotionally, socially. What does their support system look like? I think on campus is another decision that students need to think about. Do they have an IEP when they were in high school? What are the resources looking like for them there? Also, students with special situations. Maybe there are students experiencing homelessness or some food insecurities. Which campuses provide the most support and value for them? Are there points of contacts that it's readily accessible for them to go onto the website or things like that? So I think all of those play a part as well to help a student get that full experience. And a lot of times for students, prior to their senior year in high school, they haven't even thought that far. But again, for that student who's listening, that parent who's listening, these are some last minute to do things. If you've not done it, go out to these schools, talk to these schools, figure out what's the best fit for you. Because once you put that money down, you're about to make that commitment. And we're going to talk about, college signing day in a second. But before we do that, I want to also ask, maybe you're a senior, you're talking to these seniors and they're not quite sure they want to go to school. They're not quite sure what they want to do. They're kind of like, I think at this point, kind of a little late in the game, but it's not over with. Any advice for them? They're still just trying to simply figure it out. What tips do you have for someone who's like, I don't know what I want to do?
The beauty of being young is that, right? You have that little time where you are able to explore. And as much as I want to say college is for everyone, it's not for everyone. So trade schools is not for everyone, but there's something that you might be good at. So I would say if you know college is in your future and you are unsure, don't be afraid to go as an undecided student, right? You don't have to pick a major going into college. And explore different, while you're doing your general education portion of college, explore different careers, expose yourself to what those colleges have to offer, because you might be going in thinking, oh, I want to be, I don't know, an engineer, and then discover, no, I like people more, so I want to be in business. That happened to me. I went to the University of Buffalo
Mhm.
and I went in as an engineering student. And my junior year said, this is not for me, and did a completely change. So don't be afraid to explore. There's a lot of trade schools that you might be interested in. So explore, but don't get discouraged because you're young. So if one thing doesn't fit, something will fit, but you need to keep moving because that's the only way you're going to figure it out what it is that you really want to be in or do.
I think that's great advice. And I'll do a plug here because I think we have great websites and resources to kind of help those students along. So educationplanner.org is one of those websites that we have. And I think the beauty of educationplanner.org is there are assessments for students that kind of help them um, match them with certain career clusters or certain careers or professions based off of their likes and their interests. What are your hobbies? What are your likes? What do you like to do? And sometimes students will say, well, I didn't get to exactly what I like to do, but I know what I don't want to do, because they get a chance to kind of do a little bit more research and learn about them, learn how much education it's going to take. And some students will say, I want to go to school, but I don't want to be in there forever. Well, you know what? If you signed up and you said you want to be a doctor, do you realize how long you're going to have to be in school? So it also helps them to put things into perspective, be a little more realistic, but they can go at their own pace with learning, with growing, with doing the research of the schools. I agree. I don't think college is necessarily for everyone, but I do think higher learning is for everyone. And that's something we should be lifelong learners. And I do think the post-secondary schools, is I'll give it a broader thing, different types of schools beyond high school. They may say that traditional four-year school doesn't work for me, but there might be a certificate program that does, and again, it's based off of the expiration and don't feel the pressure, because at the end of the school year, you're going to see some folks who have a plan. They'll say, oh, yep, I'm graduating. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And they have it all figured out. And then you have some students who are like, I have no clue. I'm feeling overwhelmed. Give themselves some grace. I agree with you. You're still young. You got some time to figure it out, but do something. Do something to kind of get you a little closer, to a goal and to a future that will help sustain them, with their income, education, all of that good stuff that's out there. Now I'm going to talk about college signing day. So May 1st, right? It's just around the corner. So any advice for those students, regarding college decision day? Number one, it's like that exciting time. They're going to sit down, but there are some things that they need to focus on and remember. Some things that's going to be some follow-up steps. And, you coming from DeSales, I'm sure you're in a position where your school was sending out certain things to say, hey, we need this. This is what's going to happen. What advice do you have to that student for number one, who's approaching college decision day? And let's say they're looking at more than one school. There's top school, let's say, is out of their price range, but the second school is not. Any advice for that person who is trying to figure out what school's the best school based off of price? They figured out everything else. What advice do you have for them?
Price is important, right? Whether you graduate with $0 or you graduate with 120,000 in debt. So price is important. Compare those offer letters. Make sure you're in communication with those financial aid offices and your admissions offices to see if there's any additional funding that they're able to afford you. And then have realistic conversations, right? And I even had those with my kids. And previously, because I was at DeSales, they could attend DeSales tuition free. But they didn't want to go there because mom and dad worked there. So that I had to sit with my kids. And as much as I wanted to say, oh, I'll support your dreams wherever you want to go, it's a realistic conversation to have with your child. And for us, we did have a tuition exchange program, so they were able to go to other institutions. But my youngest, right, he didn't get into tuition exchange, and I'm no longer at DeSales. So we had to have the conversation where do you have enough scholarships? Are we truly able to afford this decision? And if we decide to go that route, how are we covering that? What is your stake into you making that choice, and what's our stake? And then where does that place you in the future? And we did the smart borrowing, which is one of the tools that VIA offers. And the reason why I did that was to show him, if you chose to go to where your father works, so it's a free institution, this is how much you do not need to borrow, that you might need to borrow. And this is how much we need to cover if you're staying there in the residence halls. If you go to your choice school, this is what the numbers look like. And then move that to translating when you graduate, right? Because right now it's monopoly money. For them, it's just, as long as the bill gets covered, they don't know where it's coming from, but the reality sets in. And then it's a lot different when you are a new college graduate. And you're looking to buy the new fancy car, you're looking to get your own place, and now you have this burden of a student loan that you have to pay back. So it's a reality that needs to be addressed. And amongst the all excitement of my kid got into their preferred school, and yes, we could make it happen, at what cost? So I think those are realistic conversations that you need to have with both on the parents end and on the student end. As a financial aid administrator, I saw parents that couldn't afford it. And they would be sitting crying in my office saying, how can I afford this? Maybe their credit wasn't strong enough to secure the student loan. Sometimes when you go to a school that is 60,000 a year and your income is not, your annual income is not even that, having that conversation is difficult, because they think I'm not letting my kid
You're
be
letting
the
them
best
down.
that they could be
Yeah.
because they want to come here and they come here. But an education is what you make out of it, right? So we have students that came and the parents made it work, and a year later they were transferring because it wasn't a right fit. So sometimes and then we see the reverse. We see the students that came because it was financially the best option and they made the best of the years there. So even if the answer is no to the top school, there's a place for you. In college will be whatever you make out of it. So I wouldn't want to discourage anyone if they have to choose option 2 or 3, to not make the best out of it, because at the end of the day, most colleges offer the same thing. Is what you make out of their what they're offering you.
And I think you brought up some really good points, especially with the tough conversation that parents have to have with their students. Some of them just don't know how to do it. Like, they don't want to let them down. They want to give them the best opportunities. And then sometimes they get themselves into that bind. But, financially, like you said, if you can't swing it, you're breaking the bank. It doesn't really do the student or the parent any service. It's not a service to either of them. And then I also think about, what about the parent who has another child that's getting ready to come up and make a choice as well? What type of position financially then are you putting yourselves in? And at the end of the day, I always say the goal of it all is to get the education that they need so that they can go into the careers that they want and still live the lifestyle that they want to live. My Smart Borrowing, I think, is a great resource, and we talk about it all the time. So for students and families who are still, I would just say any student, but go to mysmartborrowing.org and look at it. It lets you know if you know what your starting salary, what your career choice is going to be. It pulls in a couple of factors about, what your annual income, what could possibly look like, what your monthly income could look like, factors in some savings, let you know if you're right on target, above or below with your borrowing. Doesn't make sense if you are just going to borrow 75% of those costs, knowing good and darn well that your starting salary is not enough to even get you, lunch money for, every single day that you're working. So I think these are great tips, great tools. And I say for the student, don't get discouraged, because you do hear students sometimes say, you know what, I really want to be able to go to my top pick. I couldn't go. But at the end of the day, you have to remember, why are they choosing that top school? Is it because it's a popular school? Is it because a friend went? Is it because it has all of these extra features? Or is it truly because it is the absolute best school, but it's probably not the only school that can get you what they need. And I always want to remind the students for that. Um, Anything else regarding college decision day? Because after college decision day, you got to put down some money, you got to do some other stuff. Any other tips or advice for students to kind of prepare for college signing day, or just after they've made their decision? It doesn't have to be May 1st if it doesn't turn out to be May 1st, but that's usually the goal.
So once you do your deposit, so you know what school you're going to, I know email is not something that they like to do, but that's how most colleges communicate with students. So make sure you're checking your email, because the school's going to be asking you for a lot of things, and it's going to come from a lot of different places. One of those things, if you're staying in the residence hall, they're going to ask you for like a questionnaire of things that you like, don't like, to see how to match you to your roommate. So that's an important one, because you don't want to have to move after you moved in, or end up with a roommate that isn't you're not compatible with, right? So you don't want, if you're a morning person, you don't want to be with a night owl and things of that nature. Make sure
That happens a lot.
yes, make sure they have everything you need. Your final transcript they're going to ask you for, medical forms, and you want to have all those things lined up, because secondary schools go on vacation in the summer. So whatever you need, you want to make sure you have it before that time. And it also affords you the ability to enjoy summer. So if you're taking care of all of that ahead of time, then you're able to relax a little. Make sure that you looked at scholarships to make sure you apply to all the scholarships possible. And I'm losing my train of thought.
That's okay. So let's talk
Um,
about that, because you talked about
okay.
summer. So like when we're talking, you kind of talked about, summer break is coming up, and the secondary schools usually kind of press pause and they're out. So I think you made a couple of good points for those students. Number one, remember you got it to get everything that you need from them and do all of your follow-up with all of your schools, and not just your schools, but your scholarship organizations as well. Because for the schools who you've made that commitment to, sometimes those scholarship organizations will say, hey, before we release the funds, we need a copy of your final transcript. They may also say, hey, we're going to need the address for where we're going to send the funds for, or a contact person, so we can coordinate the funds, scholarship funds going straight to the school, because they may make them payable to the school, or to the school and the student, or some combination thereof. So I think those are good things. The other part I say is for the student, what could they focus on over the summer, leading up to the summer, to also help them press pause? Because, summertime for the students generally in high school, and most of them in college, for the counselors and a lot of those in the school systems, not access partners here like ourselves, but they get a chance to pause, hit reset, and refresh themselves, right? So what are some of the things that they can do while they're over the summer preparing? And then to reset. And I'm going to ask you how you reset too, but let's talk about the students first.
I would say enjoy your friends, right? You've known your high school friends for the last possibly 12 years, like my kids have. So and potentially everybody's gonna go their way. So make sure you enjoy that time, and that you have time to do the things that you used to, kind of like remembering your childhood, because those are the things that become nostalgic sometimes. Um, have fun looking at things on preparing, like even how you're going to decorate your dorm room if you're staying in the
Mhm.
residence halls. Um, those are things that you could do that are fun. Start researching the city if you're moving to a different city. Um, I don't know. If you work, I would say look into saving some, so you could pay for some of your
That's always a good one.
expenses in college. And the whole goal is that you have to borrow the less amount of money. So that's a good, if you're getting graduation gifts,
Mhm.
Make sure you're using that wisely. Um, I don't know, to relax.
So for you, I
For
think you
example,
look at
one of the things we do, and we do this, I come from a huge family. So one of the things we do in summer that we look forward to it every year is we go camping to canoes. And it
okay.
started with just a few of us, and now there's over 60 of us. So it's almost like our summer family reunions, I think. Um, what else we like to do? We like we're Caribbean, so we like lakes and things of that. It's not the beach of the Caribbean, but we settle for water. Um, and then me personally, I don't know. I like the outsides. I'm Caribbean, so I like the sun. So the hotter, the better for me. Um, read and take that time to do nothing, which I think is particularly for this generation. They don't know
Oh,
how great it is to do nothing, right? And particularly because you're graduating now, um, I say that adulthood is overrated sometimes.
me too.
Um, so enjoy it. Enjoy that ability of getting up late if you're night owl, and take that pause and do nothing. Enjoy that nothingness, because once you start working, once you become an adult, those are the times you look forward to because your days become work and they become very cyclical. So enjoy the pause.
I agree. I think that's all great advice. Whether you're a student, whether you're a parent, whether you're, someone on the back end just assisting and working with them, I think it's all great advice. Because again, we're pushing May right now, and a lot is happening. I know you were just saying, it's prom season for you and your son pretty much coming up right now. It's prom season everywhere. Graduations then are like the very next thing, and the parties and all of that good stuff. So work hard, finish strong is what I say to the students, to the families. Embrace this time that they have because it is coming to an end. Students, be patient with your parents. I also say because parents are a lot more emotional at this time because they're seeing their babies hit a new chapter, and sometimes the students they don't kind of get the hands on all the emotions. So give the parents a little bit of grace and let them love up on you because you're getting ready to be a young adult who might be away from them for a while, and it might not be easy. The other thing I say is reach out to the higher education access partners here at PIA. We are here to assist. Reach out to those schools that are still out there. If you still have questions, last minute things you need to do. Again, like you said, make sure that FAFSA and the financial aid and scholarships are all cut up. So there's a lot of preparation in this short span. Don't get overwhelmed. And then when it's all said and done, press pause, relax, and enjoy the moment. Anything else that you wanted to add that I didn't cover?
For the parents, I have three,
Okay.
all three different. So just because you gone through the experience with one doesn't mean that it'll be the same for the next. And even me, right? I've worked in colleges all my life. It was every college does things a little different. So it have been a different experience for all three of my kids. So for the parents themselves, extend yourself that grace too of knowing each kid is different and asking questions, right? Because my youngest is very independent. So and the other two weren't. So with this one, I have to be on top of him of did you decide what you're wearing for prom? When are we going? Um, so for parents to know that know your children, know how your kids are, and then it's going to be a different experience for all three of them. I mean, at least for me, it was.
Nice. Good advice. There, hopefully our parents will take heed and they'll listen for those who have multiple children. Evelyn, it's a pleasure having you on the podcast. And you're always welcome to come back. We are happy to have you here. And I know as you embark work on this next chapter here with Bia, hopefully you'll love it, but I know the folks will love and appreciate all that you bring to the table. So thank you for joining
Thank
me today.
you. One thing I forgot for the parents,
Mhm.
because it's something that took me by surprise. Make sure you have those HIPAA authorizations for your kids, right? Some of them are going to be turning 18, so um, you lose that. For first-time parents, um, make sure you have medical power of attorneys, all of that, because you don't want to think of an emergency and then you're not having access to that information. So make sure you take care of some of that. And my last thing that I would say is set communication expectations. Because like I said, all three of my kids were different. Um, they might not want you to contact them every day. Some of them might need you to contact them every day. So I think setting up the sitting down and having that conversation ahead of time will save the student from thinking the parent will call them and missing the parent, and the parent thinking, oh, they haven't reached out, or the parent reaching out too much. So I think setting up that communication expectations before it happens, it helps. And last words for the students, I would say, college is exciting. Be adventurous. This is your time to explore and discover yourself away from your parents. Um, Build connections and learn how to say no, but on the other hand, say yes. So you could be exposed to things that you didn't even think you would like because you never knew they existed. Um, and your best will always be good enough. So,
Absolutely. I like that one. Your best is
yeah.
always good enough. Yep.
And reach out. You're never alone. Everybody wants to see you succeed. So your parents are there. The staff in the college or university you choose to go are there for you. We are here for you. So make sure you reach out. You're not alone, and can't wait to see what you're gonna do. So thank you for having me, Tiffanie.
Absolutely. Thank you again for joining me and dropping all those valuable gems today. So for all of our listeners, we thank you for joining us here at the Higher Education Access Corner, and we will see you soon.